What did Denzel say in the movie Fences when he was confronting his son? He said, okay, all right, you grown. We established that. So here's my topic here. So you lost your temper, and you see people and you around people who lose their temper. But even more so you lost your temper. How do you get it back? Let's talk about it. All right, so the first thing we want to tackle when we're dealing with temper, let's deal with the definitions. Because temper has a few definitions in it. Temper is a very special word in the lexicon. It's very transcendent. You could take a term like temper and you can apply it to smithing. You can apply it to mannerisms. You can apply it to certain levels of intelligence, learning. Temper is a beautiful word. So the first definition you usually hear about is temper being used as a state of mind, a temper. It doesn't mean a particular state of mind. It means state of mind itself, your temper, your tone. You have a temper. We use this erroneously in jest when we see a person who's prone to anger and has what we call a hair trigger temper. We say that, oh, watch out, that person has a temper on them. Yeah, it sounds accurate, and you get what they're trying to say. Is you don't even really have to correct them, but it is being used erroneously. Temper only means state of mind itself. It doesn't mean a particular state of mind. Temper just means state of mind. But when temperance is taught, we are usually guarding against anger and outburst. And temperance is usually correlated with moderation, self-control, what they call temperance, the state of being tempered, the condition of being tempered. And so it's like, well, when you lose your temper, what are you losing? You're losing your mind. There's a couple of ways to lose your temper where it doesn't mean that you had a violent, angry outburst. You could lose your temper at a concert. If you're feeling good and the song is resonating in a certain way, and you just start crying and screaming, you're a fanboy, fangirl, and your artist is up there doing their thing, and you just in your feelings. Well, that may not have been the temper or mentality that you came in there with. You might have just been thinking about whatever you're thinking about. Maybe the fact that you just got paid and you don't want to blow through the check, knowing how hard you worked all week to get it. Maybe that's what's on your mind on the way to the concert. Maybe you worried about, all right, let me get back in time so I don't wear down on the babysitter too much because I'm baby and I left my kids somewhere else tonight. Temper. You may not have come in there with the whole idea of just being open emotionally to the experience of a particular concert. So your temper was one thing. Your temper was on household affairs. But you lost your temper. And this doesn't mean that you were angry, but you lost your mind. You lost the former mentality of being overly concerned about the details of the house. And in exchange for that temper, you gained another temper or another mind, which put you in the experience of this particular artist's journey when you're in the concert. So now all of a sudden, you having worries and anxieties about bills in your home affairs, it just gets turned into you stunting and laughing all the way to the bank with your artist when your artist gets up there and does his or her thing. But if your mind was changed, you did lose your temper, and it has nothing to do with being angry. This is temper in definition 1, which has to do with state of mind. Then you have the other temper. Here's another definition of temper, which is, let's see what definition I want to go with. I want to kind of go with the iron sharpens iron. Yeah, let's do that. Iron sharpens iron, so a man sharpens a man, a friend sharpens a friend. The acquisition of intellect through traded notes and traded mentality, this is tempering also. Because like a metal weapon, like a metal object, you're being smithed into either a weapon or a tool to be used in your life. Your life might require a wrench, so you are a wrench for your life. The kind of upbringing you had may have required a hammering personality. So you had to hammer some nails because you had a lot of people who were trying to what? Maybe they were trying to nail you. You were in an environment where everybody was trying to nail something on you, tack something on you, put something on you. So you had to have a hammering personality. You had to have a temper that just lays down the gavel and says, enough is enough. I'm calling the judgment on this. Talking about temper. And so you had to get sharper. You had to acquire a mind. So we're still dealing with the fundamental principle, dealing with acquisition of mind. But in this instance, we're using the accumulation of academia versus the acquisition of a myriad of different attitudes. You understand? Temper. Being sharp. Look, you can be of the finest metal, the finest quality. You might have a heart of steel, or you might have a mind of steel. You might be a man of steel, a woman of steel. You might have iron heart. You might be an iron man, an iron woman. But if you're just a block of metal, what are you really going to be used for? Other than a building block, something to be walked on like a floor, something to be leaned up against like a pillar, something to hang things off of like a wall, something to build a whole foundation, a whole structure upon like a pillar or foundational structure, support beams. Your temper will be used. It takes temper for you to be fashioned, for you to be shaped, for you to be molded, for you to be made. We talk about what it means to be a made man or a made woman. What it takes to be a made man or a made woman is to be a shaped man or a shaped woman. And yes, that extends to all categories. Because if you're feeling and experiencing some negative effects of being out of shape, then you're being tempered and chiseled and shaped into a more conducive physical component known as your body. You chiseling that. You're shaping your iron. Because iron sharpens iron. So a friend sharpens a friend. I like to sharpen my tools as much as possible, to sharpen my essence as much as possible. I learn, I read, I watch videos, I meditate, I talk to people, and I just learn, because everything that's happening in my existence, which is probably true for you, is working to the shaping of your metal. You are being tempered by life. And it's nobody's place to judge what kind of tool you are, whether you be a shovel, a pickaxe, or a crowbar. Either way, you're metal, either way, you're iron, and it's going to take iron to sharpen iron, but that process is called temperance. What else comes with this? Heat. So yes, it might be fashionable to complain, but is it accurate? The test is the temperance. The temperance is the perfecting of a thing. There's an old school movie called Cyborg with Jean-Claude Van Damme old school film. And he's having these various moments where he's reminiscing, reflecting on how he got to the state that he was in, being a slinger in a post-apocalyptic world. He was reflecting on times that took place just before the apocalypse, and this would affect his temper to the degree where it would temporarily swap out his temper, because he's a slinger. He's on a quest for vengeance in the story. He's a slinger named Gibson who has his family taken from him by a band of pirates. And so his temper, his dominant temper, is vengeance, revenge. But occasionally, while he's sharpening his blades on a block of iron, he's reflecting on what he lost, on what he had pre-apocalypse. He's reflecting. He's taking notes. So he's sharpening his mind, and he's taking his mind off of the immediate anguish of the vengeance. So he's exchanging tempers while tempering his weapon. He's tempering two things at once. He's tempering the weapons that he's using to fight the enemy, and he's tempering the one weapon that he's using to fight his inner demons. The trauma that came with him losing so much of what he lost. So you have this dual tempering going on. Your craft and what you're good at, your skills, these things are tempering your life. And also your mentality itself is tempering your life. Dualistic. You can also say maybe triune when you add the third component being environment. Sure, we can do it like that. So that's temper. Those are two ways to look at temper. And say, well, I lost my temper. How do you get it back? Assume the temper before. And it's gonna take, just like in smithing, you don't just do it in one whop and one move. You gotta hold the torch in a certain spot. You gotta hold the block in a certain spot. You gotta hold it against a saw. Whatever you're doing to sharpen this iron is a repeated process. Like exercising a muscle. You get stronger just continuing to be grateful no matter how tough it gets. Continuing to persevere no matter how tough it gets. That's like you making the same motion back and forth, rubbing your blade on the block of iron so that you can have a sharper, more discerning spirit than you had the day before. This requires what? Reflection, thought, mindfulness. These things are for the improving of what is called temper. This improves your temperance. So we don't advocate you losing your temper, but we advocate that not only do you keep your temper, but acquire as many beneficial tempers as possible so that you can be more temperate and more diverse in your expression of temper. So temper is not something you can lose. If it's anger, you definitely want to lose that. Let's play around with that phrase a little bit and put it right side up. Because they say, I lost my temper. What are you releasing? Anger. But your temper is flooded with anger. But again, we said temper itself is not anger. Temper itself is the state of mind. What's in that state of mind is anger. So you didn't lose your temper unless you got rid of the anger upon releasing it. Most times it's a grudge. So people might express a temper that is flooded with anger, but they never really lost the temper. They're still holding on to that anger flooded temper. So they didn't lose it. They expressed it. May have even exposed it, but they did not lose their temper, their anger, unless they permanently got rid of it. That's what it means to lose it, to get rid of it, to dispose of it. They're not disposing of this anger. They're just expressing it. There's a difference. You can express your anger and let it go, But you can also express your anger and be holding on and not have dropped that temper, but holding on to that temper and subsequently causing more damage in the long run. So this is Super T Sigma with Sigma Programming. I thank you for your time, your attention, your love, your support, your comments, all that good stuff. In the meantime and in between time, stay balanced, know yourself, for yourself, and continue to vibrate high, because you can either live in peace or live in pieces.